Oh,
the load won't be
nice.
as heavy.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I just have to stick it out until the rest of the semester going full time and then just half time next semester and I'm done. I don't have to think about it anymore.
I know. And I think that towards the end, we get like real antsy and I feel almost frustrated because I want to be done so bad. And I'm so nervous that it just makes me, I don't know, I'm kind of on edge at this point with, with all my classes and the work.
Right?
And then I want to ditch the laptop for a long time.
Like, no
I
more
don't want to
video
look at it for a
calls.
long time. Hello.
Yeah, I'm like,
Hello.
oh, hi, Lissal.
Hello there. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing great.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to give up the laptop either. I'm like, I could go outside and do things. Could ride my bike.
Yes, the small little things that we can't do because we're tied to the computer doing work.
Yeah.
Yesterdays are very long.
I was just telling Monica, we're almost there. We can do it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So Jade said she's going to be a couple minutes late.
Okay.
Do you guys want to go ahead and get started?
Sure.
Fantastic. Okay. So we had that worksheet this week to do. Did you guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the first thing that we're supposed to do is go through 2 things of part A. And I believe they were our choice. Does anyone want to go first?
Let's see. I struggled with the Virginia Woolf reading really bad.
Me too.
Okay. I was looking up stuff left and right, so I thought I hope we don't discuss the Virginia Woolf because I was all over the place with confusion and relied on Google and trying to understand her story. So I got the gist of it, but I don't think enough to go through the Likert scale on her leadership assessment.
Yeah, I don't think I could either. It's hard to read her stuff. I had to read it 2 or 3 times before I was like, okay, I can move on to the next sentence.
We could do a coworker, or I got the Blue Latitudes better than
yeah, I chose
Virginia Woolf.
5 and 6.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That sounds good.
Okay, cool.
Coworker and Horowitz.
It was, but I took a stab at it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did you get it?
I wouldn't say I got it, but I did. I had something to say about Woolf, but not much.
Okay. I've always struggled with that era of writing, and I really try to dive into it with an open mind, but I just wasn't absorbing it, and then the verbiage just kept throwing me off, trying to understand. The writings were just so different then, so I really did. I struggled. Okay, so we'll do a coworker and then Tony Horowitz.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Sure. So for item 5, sorry. So we're supposed to assess a different coworker. So I chose one of my shift supervisors. She's amazing. I absolutely love her. But I wrote that she is strong and independent, and no matter what, she always gets the job done. In fact, she was just lecturing me about overworking myself. We have all of my high school kids right now have caught a bug. They just went back to school, and so they're all throwing up. And 3 of them work tomorrow. So I was like, well, I can't find anybody to cover it, so I'm going to work 4:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. And my shift was like, no, you're not doing that. I'm not letting you. I was like, it's not, I have to, like, that's my job. And she's like, no, I'll work it. I'm like, okay, Kylie.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah,
that's
she's amazing.
Teamwork. She
But
didn't want you suffering alone.
yeah. But she's really hardworking. She'll work through migraines, colds. It doesn't matter what she's got going on. And she wants to move up in her position. So we sat down and had a development conversation together to see what else we could do to get her there. And those conversations are really like self-made. I'm just kind of there to facilitate. I don't really do much else than like guide the conversation or suggest in one way or another. But she's very reflective of herself and very self-aware, which is fantastic. The only thing that I could really score her lower on is that seeking new challenges can be a struggle. Like she'll step up to any challenge that you give her or propose to her, but finding them on her own is kind of a different thing. But I mean, that's something that I struggle with as well. You know, with work and school, I'm like, I'm not taking on anything else. I'm good. But her and I both come from kind of like the same mindset. Like you get paid to do what you do, and so we have trouble showing appreciation and going above and beyond and showing appreciation for people because we're like, high five, you did your job, nice work,
did your
you
job.
know.
Yes, that's kind of how I view things too.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, you show up, you get paid, you're expected to do this. That's how it works. But I found throughout my experience that, you know, giving those high fives and taking things that maybe I think are expected and celebrating them is something that my team members really need. So that's something that that shift supervisor needs to work on as well. So I didn't score her as high on the Likert scale there. But the cool thing about that is that she knows that that's something that she needs to work on, and her and I have set up a system where we can help each other improve in that area. But I really think that's the lowest score that I gave her was just could show some more appreciation. What about you guys? What'd you get for that?
Well,
Hi, Jade. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Hi, Jade.
Hey, glad you're here.
All right. So where were we at?
My partner. I scored my partner. We work together. We're on the same level, kind of like middle management at work, and she and I work as a team. We fill in for my my supervisor all the time, and she is outstanding as well. She's about 5 years younger than me, and she is like a little powerhouse. She's not even 5 feet tall, and she just has this command presence about her, and she seems very serious and even intimidating. But the minute she talks, her sense of humor rubs off. So then I think people tend to warm up to her more. And she is such a hard worker. Her attention to detail, it just blows my mind. And sometimes I feel like a hot mess because she catches things that I don't. But like she says, you know, you have so many other things going on, and I don't. So on her personal example of what she expects of others, I feel that she sets it very high because she's a very high producer, and she expects people to work at her level. And I think the team kind of struggles with that, where I'm more understanding. I don't know if it comes with life experience, age, or just the fact that I've taken on so much, but sometimes I have to remind her, like, I know we have these expectations and you expect this of these people, but they've never worked in this capacity. So they're going to have to put in extra effort, and it's going to take them longer to get there. And she's really open to those types of suggestions. But she seeks out challenging opportunities constantly. She's always thinking of the next project and the next thing she can take on. And I think that's just her drive and motivation. She does develop cooperative relationships among the people she works with, but I would probably say they don't go far beyond cooperative. As far as like really building a personal relationship or connection, I don't really see that happening. And she's okay with that. And it works in our job setting, I guess. So I kind of scored her middle range. Praises people for a job well done. She's the same way that I think we're kind of like, okay, that's what you get paid to do. When people take initiative and do things like above and beyond, she definitely acknowledges that, and so do I. She does listen and she prods for diverse points from other people. She picks their brain because I think she likes to know what's going on in other people's minds. I rarely hear her ask for feedback, so I did score low in that. She does experiment and take risks, that's for sure. She'd be on the high end, like a 9 or 10. Ensures that people grow in their jobs by learning new skills and developing. She almost forces that on people. And I see them tend to shy away from her. Like they'll see her coming and they turn around and go the other way. But I've had a couple people say down the road, like, I was really glad that she taught me that. I was really glad that she made me jump into learning that. And so I think that's a great thing. Her way of going about things versus mine are very different. And like I said, I don't know if I kind of have more patience with people and give them a little more room because I don't like to have somebody be pushy towards me or throw things on me. I'm kind of like very considerate, like a two-way street, where she's more like, it's time, we're going to teach them, like, here we go. So I would say that the majority of the scores were 8 and 9s. She had a couple 1s and 2s. But overall, I think in our job setting, it works.
That's awesome. She sounds a lot like my shift supervisor that I was telling you guys about. She'll do the same thing, like throw them into something new. And they're like, whoa, what are you doing? And she's like, it's time for you to bar. Like, didn't you know today was the day?
Yeah. Yep.
That's funny. So Jade, we're talking about using the questions and the Likert scale that was provided on our form to assess leadership or of a different coworker. So that's
okay, so I'm just gonna be honest, so I forgot my laptop, which means I don't have my notes, which means I'm really very unprepared tonight. But I can always email you like my interview or like who I assessed, so that way you guys have that. But I just wanted to jump on because I said I would be here and I'm here, but I was unprepared today.
I'm so sorry, and I was unprepared yesterday.
No, it's not your fault. It was just one of those mornings, and I had it sitting on the table, and my child just did not want to, get going this morning, so I was late, and then by the time I got to work, I didn't get a break today, so I wasn't able to run home and get it. So
rough day.
It was a long day. So I'm mainly just going to listen to you guys and take it all in, and then I can always email you, my info that I have at home.
Cool.
Definitely.
And I just took a picture of the Likert scale so you have some sort of a frame of reference, and I texted it to you. You're welcome. So what about you, LaSalle? I'm trying to get back to this question.
Absolutely. Yeah, I used a coworker as well, just for a little context. I work in a very small department, and what my department does is we support all of the HR systems within all of the ski resorts that exist within my population. And so HR systems are payroll, onboarding and recruiting, anything involving just keeping those systems up, doing improvements to them, and answering questions from the resorts on how to fix things. Oh, my payroll is wrong. How do I fix it? And so that's what I do. I work in a small department. It's just me, a senior HR analyst who is not my supervisor, but is just someone that's more qualified than me, and a manager that oversees the department. And so Hillary is my senior analyst, and she sits right next to me. And she started with the company maybe a month after I did, but came in experienced. And I was not experienced. When I moved into HRIS from the payroll department, I had no experience with systems whatsoever. And so I helped Hillary gain her footing on how the company did things. And in return, she trains me on exactly what HRIS is about and how to analyze problems within the system. And she is extremely supportive. She's the nicest person I've ever met in a professional capacity. And I really enjoy just sitting with her and talking her off the ledge when things get a little rough in the department, and her being supportive of just, you're new, I understand you don't know how to do this, but I'm going to keep challenging you. I'm going to throw things at you. She never holds on to any knowledge. She keeps on making me better, and in return, I keep her sane with my calm demeanor. And so we work well together. We're like peas in a pod. And so on the LPI side, I rated her 9s and 10s on every single category within that LPI inventory, except for one: actively listening to diverse points of view. And I only graded her down to an 8 because while she is extremely good at analyzing the whole field, as a type A personality that's very confident in her abilities, she can sometimes be a little deaf to how the resort contact or the customer feels about what's going on. She's there to solve problems. She's not there to necessarily be the kindest sounding board all of the time. But frequently she'll get off of a call that she was not as kind about being empathetic to the resort's point of view about it. She'll get off the call and go, maybe I should have been a little more considerate of their position. So I gave her a slight mark down just for that. And as for the Likert scale criteria, mostly always or nearly always in every single category. She exercises good judgment. She communicates information across the team. She is very articulate with the resorts and with us. She lets me write a little bit of her documentation, but I don't step on her toes too much because she's just really good at what she does. Contributes well to meetings. The only real opportunity I see with her on the Likert criteria is maybe things on like encouraging teamwork and cooperation among departments. Because once again, she's so good at what she does. Sometimes she finds it difficult to take a step back and say, well, what do you think about this? She's there to solve a problem. So she leans on solving the problem first and unpacking what happened later. And maybe if she jumped in and let us all help her instead of just trying to carry the whole load herself most of the time, as she tries to do, it would be a more collaborative team that was able to be all successful together instead of her getting us to the finish line a lot of the time. And so, if there were any opportunity, that would be it would help. But other than that, she's a marvel, and I love going out to lunch with her. I love the baked goods she brings into the office to keep us happy, and I just love working with her. So
that's good.
That's fantastic.
I was gonna ask too, how did your fire? You had to put out a fire a couple weeks ago. How did that go?
That was a late night, but we got it accomplished.
Was it?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, basically a group of time clocks on one of our resorts just stopped working. No one could clock in and out. And so, yeah, and so we had to call.
That's what's hard when it's all technology nowadays. You know, it's not like in the olden days where you punch in and you punch out. You know,
no punches, no time to fill out. We don't do any of that anymore. Yeah. And so I had to call the vendor. The vendor's fix was wrong, but finally I diagnosed the solution and got it all done. But I worked till like 9 o'clock that night. It was no big deal.
Oh man,
that's life in the big city.
For sure.
Well, it sounds like you did a really good job of solving that problem. That can be really stressful, especially when you don't have like a time log, like you were saying, Jade. You know.
Yeah, for sure. It's when stuff goes down, it's hard, especially like because I told you guys I used to work in a restaurant, you know, well, just like Starbucks, you know, but like everything's on credit card, you know, like credit cards, everything is on that computer. And one time we went down like everything. We didn't like, you had to go back to like old school where you like push the credit, you know, that like no one knew even how to do that. It was stressful and crazy, and it's like, man, we rely so much on technology. It's insane, but we have to, you know. That's just what we do. But it's hard when it happens.
Yes, for sure.
For sure.
Definitely. I remember the day all of our computer systems went down and we were just giving away free drinks. I was like,
what do you do? I know, it's a mess.
Okay, so question 6 is using the questions in the Likert scale below. Assess the leadership or perhaps the customer service of Tony Horwitz, author of Blue Latitudes. So that was a really hard assessment for me to do because we read so much about Captain Cook and not so much about Horwitz, and I ended up reading way more than I should have, I realized. So I feel like I got a decent amount, but he didn't really strike me as the leadership kind. So I didn't really score him very high in many areas. I think the highest areas that I scored him in were seeking out new opportunities. Let me scroll down here real quick. So experiments and takes risks even when there's a chance of failure. I thought it was so cool that, you know, he was going and visiting all of these places that Captain Cook did. And I'm like, for what purpose? What is he going to get out of that? You know, like, but obviously he was successful with it and has written this awesome book. But I would never think to do that because I have to know, you know, what the plan is, and then I have to execute the plan. But it seemed like, you know, in other areas, he was definitely treating people with respect and dignity, even though like on the sailboat, I don't know if you guys read that part, but he was on the sailboat with some of his friends trying to experience one of Captain Cook's voyages. And his friends are like drinking beer and eating something, I don't remember. And he's getting sick, and they're all kind of bashing on the whole idea of him going through Cook's footsteps. And I was like, and the way he responded wasn't, you know, negative. He was just like, oh, it's what I'm doing. These are the cool things about it. Have you guys thought about this? So I thought that was also a good point. But I didn't really see a time where, you know, he was ensuring that people grow in their jobs by learning a new skill or developing themselves, because he didn't really serve that role, you know? So the scores that I gave him were kind of all over the place, for sure.
I saw him more, I viewed him more as an adventurer explorer.
Yeah, me too.
Leader. I don't feel like he led anyone. I felt kind of like he led his own excursion and his own kind of like treasure hunt in a way by going to all you know, all the places the captain did. But I really myself didn't view him as a leader, which I guess is kind of not right, because you're right, he did write this great book that, you know, is now used through college, you know. But I really didn't view him as a leader at all. I feel like, am I wrong?
I kind of felt the same way.
I agree with you. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. That's all I had.
I was going to say on that, like, you know how we have to do the self-assessment at the end of each module? Like, I was trying to, like, find, like, a good example of, like, you have to, like, write a quote that, like, it's, like, leadership skills or whatever, and I couldn't really find anything in that whole book. I mean, I did, but I was kind of, like, I was, like, grasping at straws. Because I really could not find hardly anything in that whole book that I believed was like a real leadership skill or anything like that. I don't know if you guys felt the same, but I had a hard time doing that. That portion of the self-assessment. It was the rest, like our book is so easy. You can find so many different quotes, but that book was to me it was not good. It was not easy. It was not like the others, I guess. Yeah. Is what I would say.
Yeah,
so,
it wasn't.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
I think I could find more examples of, or I guess higher scores on the Likert scale for Captain Cook than I could for Tony Horowitz. For
exactly.
Sure.
Yeah. Agreed.
What about you, LaSalle?
Blue Attitudes, I'm pretty much in the same boat. It was a really good analysis of, Captain Cook and his state of mind and how his state of mind changed from journey to journey. And then finally, in the end, he was pretty burned out and sick and seemed to be over the whole thing. But as far as, Horowitz's writing itself, it was a fair analysis. I wouldn't find it a striking thing. I didn't get any real revelations about any new qualities of leadership necessarily. Horowitz's portrayal of Cook's journeys, it was okay. It's a guessable information book, but I wouldn't call it a leadership book. I didn't get anything that really just made me learn something new about leadership.
Yeah, I mean, either not.
Agreed.
Well, I'm glad we all kind of came to the same conclusion there because I was a little worried. I was like, I just didn't get it, I guess.
Well, and I think it was like one of the top sellers or something, and I'm like, I guess because everyone in college has to buy it, but I don't know why otherwise people would really buy it. I don't know. It wasn't something that I would just enjoy reading if it wasn't for this course.
Yeah.
Just being honest.
Historically, it had some good tidbits in there. I mean, I didn't know a lot about it.
It was alright. It wasn't, but it wasn't. I guess we all have our own. It wasn't my favorite book in the whole world.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it has a cool perspective, but I like you guys. I probably wouldn't read it in my free time.
No.
Okay, I guess we can move on to section B then. So please use the LPI questions below to self-assess on the last 2 weeks and then the last year according to your actions in your given team or social group. Then please discuss them with your team, being candid about areas where you would like to improve.
Okay.
Well, I think our team is awesome.
So do I.
Agreed.
No, this is the very first team. This is the very first group that I've been with since I started ASU. That everyone shows up, everyone works together on if we have an issue and we can't get together. This is the very first group that we make it happen, and we're always there. So, to me, it's been an awesome. It's the best group I've been in for sure.
I agree.
Me too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of group assignments typically.
No, because sometimes
go
it's
out my way.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to have to count on someone that I don't know, that I'm not even in the, it's not like we're in the class together. We are in the class, but we're online. So you guys can go do whatever the heck you want. And one of us could show up and be like, oh, well, I'm here, but where's everyone else? The day that I'm 5 minutes late and I don't have my assignments, but normally I'm all right. good. I've had a great experience with you guys so far, so I'm glad for that.
Yeah, me too. You guys are all super flexible.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely had some rough group work in the past.
Horrible.
And I remember the first time I got assigned group work at ASU, I was like, excuse me, now we have to add like the internet and technology on top of this. It doesn't make any sense. I was so frustrated, but our group has been good.
Well, we're almost done, you guys. We're doing awesome. I mean, we're almost like, because two of you are graduating, in December? And the other, I'm graduating.
Knock wood.
Knock on wood is right.
I know. I have to do a website this week, a Weebly e-portfolio, and I'm so scared.
Oh no! What's that? Wait, what is that? You have to like make a website?
Yeah, we have to do a portfolio on a website on the OGL, the 481 and 482.
I haven't taken that class yet.
They make you wait till the end, and then I hope you saved like all your good work because you have to provide artifacts, and it's like 2 per class to get a satisfactory. 3 is
really
good, and then like 4 artifacts per class to be excellent. So honestly, I mean, I've never received a C, but I'm about ready to just do.
No,
I'm so sorry.
you are not.
I'm like, so you made it sound like it was super easy. So last night I got like a subdomain name and started it, and then I've been watching like YouTube's tutorials to kind of get more comfortable, but I am so scared, and we have to have a total of 6 pages, like about me and academic journey, and then like 4 topics of classes. It's just, I'm so nervous. Wow. So it's the end.
You know what though? We always like psych ourselves out, and it's not as I guarantee. Like once you're done, you're gonna be like, oh, this was not that bad. Like. I feel like that's how it is.
I was more familiar with technology, but I'm like the basics, you know? So
I think you're going to be just fine, girlfriend.
I hope so.
You'll be good. Weebly is confusing at first sometimes, but once you figure out its little quirks, you're good to go.
See, I don't even know what it is.
I used it once, and I remember being pretty frustrated with it at first because I'm not a technological person. But once I kind of figured out that, you know, it has certain little quirks to it, then I was good. Like it didn't like the browser that I was using, and that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Well, then it's really hard
totally
when he like the professor shows you like 5 examples, and they're like top notch, like oh my gosh, the editing, just the photographs on it, just you're like, what is this? And then I start trying to make mine, and I'm like, this is a joke. I'm so embarrassed. But we'll see. I have a week to get it done better. So
you're like, could you show me an example of a C paper?
I'll be okay with that. Yes.
I think for the most part, as long as they see that you have put in time and effort, it's not like they're gonna fail you. You know what I mean? Like I felt like I've always tried in all of my assignments, and I've always done really well because they see that. Like, they see that it takes us time and effort. Like, they're not going to fail you. I mean, you made it this far.
Classes. I know.
You made it this far. They're not going to fail you at the very last one, I'm telling you.
Oh, they want you to succeed.
They do.
Yeah.
They just want us to try. As long as we try. And
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry if I got you guys off topic.
No, you're good.
No, you're fine.
All good.
So thinking about our leadership styles over the past 2 weeks versus the last year, what are some of the biggest differences that you guys see in yourselves?
I would definitely say my active listening to other people's diverse points of view. I have improved in that, like across the board in my academic life, my personal life, and at work. So I am the type of person that I talk a lot, and I speak so fast because I want to get it out when it's in my brain, before I forget it. So I used to interrupt a lot, and I used to speak over people. And I know it's rude, and I was super aware of it. Like, people all over would point it out to me, and I've worked on that, but just actively listening, really listening to not just what people are saying, but what they mean by what they're saying. Maybe they're not saying it verbatim what they want to say. So I'm actively listening to them overall, their tone, their body language, just their struggle, trying to get it out. So I have improved in that, and taking risks. I mean, not that I throw myself into the risks, but when I'm dealt a new risk, I know I have to just jump into it and figure it out some way, somehow. So I guess for me, I've improved in those areas.
That's awesome.
That's a good one.
That's really good. I was actually going to say, when you said, like, not interrupting, because I noticed that I've interrupted you guys several times, and it's not because I'm trying to be rude, it's that because I'm like, if I don't do it right now, I'm going to forget. But it is still rude, so, like, I am trying to get better with that as well.
Yeah.
Because and the other thing is, like, when I am listening to someone, I have 1,000 things in my mind that sometimes I'm really not truly focusing on what they're saying. And, like, I can get through a 2-minute discussion with someone and be like, what did they just say? Because, like, I was, like, completely, like, in la la land, like, not really focusing on what was being said. So I am more aware of that now, I guess, too. So good points there. Good points there.
Do you guys do that while you're reading?
So I'm sorry if I've ever been, like, interrupting you guys, because I don't try to do
it. That happens to me a lot when I'm reading. I'll read a page, and then all of a sudden I'm like, what did I even just read? I now have to go back. Great.
Yep, and see, me too. And I just interrupted you again.
You're fine.
Yes, I'm the same way. Like, I'll read a whole page, and it's like, I wasn't really focusing on that page. So now, like, I just read a whole bunch of words that mean nothing, and I have to go back and read it. I thought I was, like, the only reader that did that, actually.
No, reading's really hard to stay focused and absorb, I think, especially if it's something you're not.
I was like, maybe I'm just a slow reader or something. Yeah. So, yeah, I've been some academic, and I actually concentrating on it, but on books that, like, I don't like at all, that's when I'm just, like, reading the words and not comprehending.
Cliff notes. Cliff notes. Yeah.
I forgot about Cliff notes.
What about you, LaSalle?
The self-assessment exercise was actually very interesting, and generally most things didn't change from a period of 2 weeks over the course of a year, but there were a couple of areas that I saw that, especially, like I said, last year I took on a new role within my company, and there are a couple of things that I saw I've definitely experienced some growth in, and one there's still some work to do. Especially up on the LPI side of the scale. The one opportunity area that I saw that I have had some growth in is praises people for a job well done. And Hillary, my partner in crime, helped me with that. She gets so much better response from our colleagues and the leaders within HR in our organization, just because of her approach. She not only is helpful, but she's also kind, and she's also very inclusive of trying to get people to understand why a solution is the way that it is, and by saying that anybody that helped with that solution, she really praises their contribution, and so she'll bring you extra baked good if you helped her out really well. We got brownies just this morning. She's really good at just like, I really liked what you did for me. Hey, let me take you to lunch, or do you need a cookie? I just love the way that she's encouraging in the heat of all of the stuff that we go through. And so I've tried to emulate that because I see what the value is there. I'm very reserved, as I've told you many times, and so I'm more of a get in the trenches, put my head down, do my best work, and go home type of person. And I'm not necessarily as supportive as I can be all of the time. But yeah, just the other day, I decided, hey, it's Hillary's work anniversary. She's been here a year. Let me buy some donuts.
I love it. Good for you.
I gave her a little card saying, I just appreciate what you've done for me in the last year. And so she's starting to rub off.
That's awesome.
That's great.
And that's a good thing. I think that she will help me be a better leader in my aspects of my life. She showed me something that is really valuable and really personally encouraging. And so I do like that. And I'm thankful to her for that. One opportunity area that I did find in my self-assessment, where was it? Encourages teamwork and cooperation between departments. I'm still really green at what I do, and so there's a little bit of a confidence barrier sometimes with me getting into a meeting and actually presenting a solution that is my own. I'm still sort of holding back on being that type of contributor. Even when I'm pretty sure that I see something that we could work on that might be an enhancement to what we do. I'm still sort of sitting back and letting other people be that contributor because I'm still not sure. I'm not absolutely sure even a year in that what I am saying is absolutely dead on correct. And so I need to be more confident. I need to be more, know that, what I'm thinking is valuable and go ahead and put it out there. And if it's not dead on, that's what I have a team for. Let's work together to try to
and
put
practice
all of the
makes
right
perfect.
together. Yeah, for sure.
The more you do it, LaSalle, I was going to say, the more you do it, like the more you're going to be more comfortable and you're going to be able to throw those ideas out there. I've noticed that with my job is I used to just sit there and just listen to everyone. And I've learned throughout my career at ASU, like you have to be vocal in meetings. You have to, if you want them to take you seriously, like you have to step up and show them that, hey, I do know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, you guys work through it together. But practice has definitely helped me with that because practice makes perfect. It just does. And I've found that with my job. So, and I think you know exactly what you're saying and doing, and I think you're awesome. So you should have more confidence because you're a smart man.
Well, I appreciate that, Jay. Anything new comes with a level of a learning curve, and with that learning curve comes with fear and apprehension. And I know that. I know what it is. And I'm still working on it.
At least you're aware of it.
Very true.
Yep.
So for myself, the last year has been, it's been like a goat rodeo for me. Moving out of my, like, there's no other way to explain it. I moved out of the place that I have lived my entire life. You know, I had been with Starbucks for like 9 years up to that point. And so I knew everybody that was around me. I knew all the store managers. I had been with several district managers. I had really, really good support within Starbucks and with my in my personal life as well, but more so with work. So when I moved, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know any of the store managers, and I have a new boss, and I don't have anybody that I can really reach out to, like in this area, to use as a support system. So that has been super challenging. But also, the store I took on is in a resort market, and business is a little bit different than I'm used to, a little bit more challenging for me in that manner. And right as Sundance, so I'm in Park City, and Sundance happened. And I was like, what is Sundance? I don't understand. And everybody's like, oh, you better hold on your pants because it's going to be a crazy week. I was like, okay, here we go. I'm just going to camp on the patio. It's fine. But right around that time as well, we had like 5 or 6 partners involved in a really nasty business ethics and compliance case that took a long time to figure out. And so I was stretched super thin, like still going to school. And I found that I lost a lot of those things that I was working on with my leadership, such as, giving people praise for a job well done, when we already know that I feel like you show up to work, you get paid to do your job, you go home.
Sure.
So I lost some of those things over this last year. And I wouldn't say 2 weeks, but definitely over the last like 5 or 6 months, I'd say. Taking the organizational leadership classes definitely help you reflect on what you're doing and why. So I did a lot of reflecting and then went, okay, so where did that go? I used to do it. What happened? I'm like, I don't know, but we just need to get back on track. So it was kind of interesting for me to score myself over last year versus like now on the Likert scale, because I was seeing that, like, sure, I'm still setting a personal example, but I'm not seeking out any challenging opportunities because I feel like I'm already at my max capacity with learning a new store and going to school, I would develop cooperative relationships, but praising people for a job well done, not so much. Actively listening was really hard for me for a while there because I'm like, okay, we got to get this done right now. There's no time. Just spit it out. Let's fix it and let's move on, So kind of like your coworker, LaSalle Hillary, being a problem solver, I just went straight into that problem solving mode. And so when one of my partners had a real issue that they needed to talk to me about, I was like, spider bite. Yeah, go to the doctor, bring me a doctor's note. We'll see you tomorrow. That's it. Like instead of being like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you? I'm so sorry. So I kind of lost more of those personal touches, I feel like. Those things that make you more vulnerable and approachable. So I've really been working on those the last 5 or 6 months. And it kind of, I always wonder about my own personal opinion because I'm like, is this accurate or not? But it kind of showed itself at work as well, because I have, like, no matter where you work, at least I feel like no matter where you work, no matter what store you're in, there's always going to be like that 1 or 2 people that you have to try extra hard to form a relationship with. And so I have those people for sure, and have been trying my darndest to build relationships with them, but I just can't seem to. So I stepped to the side and tried another approach. But I recently had, like 3 weeks ago, had a partner come to me and share some information with me. And then she said to me, I thought the problem was you, but it's not. It's this other person and what they're doing. And I was like, oh, well, thank you for that. I'm so sorry that you felt like I was a problem. Maybe I was 3 months ago, So
right.
I'm like, but I promise you, I'm trying not to be the problem now.
Good for you, though. At least you realize that.
Yeah. So it's kind of not, it's not fun to look at, but you have to, like, personally, and especially I feel like if you're a leader, to be able to go, okay, I'm not doing this right. I need to be able to fix this and move in the right direction.
Right. And you're not alone, Danielle. I think in today's busy society and world, and with the workforce giving you more tasks to do and less employees to do it. I'm in the same boat where I feel stretched so thin. I made a couple of mistakes last week, and some supervisors came to me and wanted to know, and just the way they approached me about it, it was not a good situation. Like, for the first time in 22 years, I thought I was going to get written up, and my reaction was negative back, which they don't see that from me often. But my direct supervisor said, my team is so fatigued. They're stretched so thin. They are on edge. They are worked so hard that, please, talk to me first before you go straight to them. And when I thought about it, that night I went back to work and I told my direct supervisor, I messed up by the way I responded to this, to your peer, and I know I was wrong. So if you need to write me up, I understand. I'm okay with it. However, when you're ready, can you hear where I was coming from? And she already knew, so I appreciated that she realizes we are all stretched so thin, and it does alter our own leadership skills. It's when we feel like everything's just being sucked and drained out of us, it's harder for us to maintain that leadership role. When, like, for me, I'm kind of in the middle where I'm trying to still be helping line staff, but then I'm trying to help my supervisor as well. And I feel like it's a tug of war, and it's super hard. So you're not alone. Like, we all kind of backslide on the qualities that we work so hard to obtain.
Yeah, it's really hard when you've got a lot going on, and especially, like you said, more tasks, less people is a very real thing. And so it's like, hey, it's like when someone calls out sick or something, like in the restaurant business, and nobody can cover it. You're like, okay, we're all doing the work of 6 people and there's only 4 of us. Let's do this,
Yeah. Gotta make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, and I was gonna throw out one thing too is so my full-time job, I work for the county, and my boss, like, he's a really good boss, like, he's a really good supervisor, but when he gets stressed, like, everyone can see that. And so I'm hoping that because I am in these classes, I notice it more, and I, if I'm starting to stretch thin, or I'm starting to do something that I don't like to do, it brings me back because I'm studying it. I'm hoping that 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when we're busy and we're stressed and we don't go, because we're not going to be studying it anymore. We already have our degree. So I guess my worry is I don't want to get to that point. I mean, he went to college, he has a degree, but he has his bad moments too. So I'm just hoping that I can still remember, like, what we're talking about right now, 20 years from now, when we're busy and we're stressed and we're, and that's just something to think about it, I guess. Like, I hope, like, I know I notice it because I'm physically studying it right now, but I'm not going to be studying it in 10 years. So, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And you know the answer to that, Jay? Practice makes perfect, just like you.
Practice makes perfect. We just got to keep remembering that.
Yeah, don't close your book and ignore these concepts after we leave this class. You just have to keep on doing that.
We got to keep doing it. That's right, LaSalle. I love that. Good job. Because I think my boss is not practicing that at all. Because he just carries his stress, like, and I'm like, and sometimes he'll be like, I'm sorry, and I'm like, yeah, but that's not professional, I don't say that to him, but I come home and tell my husband, I'm like, he's a great supervisor in so many ways, but he just does not handle stress well, and that's just not to me, that's just not a leadership quality. Like, you have to be able to handle that. That's what you are being schooled for. That's what you're learning for,
Yeah.
So, just my take on it.
Very true.
Yeah, it's just so difficult in the heat of battle. We do have far more responsibilities thrown at us, most of us that are in roles, and the resources are starting to dwindle. It's just the fact that companies don't hire as many people to do work as they used to, and so it is our responsibility to learn how to manage the process of doing more with less. And from that stress standpoint, yeah, self-management is just key. Just learning to be aware of when you're in that heightened state where you're getting irrational, you're getting where you can't just juggle all the balls at one time, and just take a step back, go, before I do something stupid, how can I put myself in a better state? And that awareness is what keeps us able to just keep on keeping on, being better in our leadership roles without letting the stress take us over. And it's so hard to get to that place, but all you can do is practice the skills and learn to be aware. Learn to be aware. Awareness is our only defense against irrationality and that emotional trigger that makes us just go off and do something that we'll regret later.
Yeah. One of the things that used to really bother me was if a partner called out, it can be really hard to get the shifts covered. And when I was a new manager, it would frustrate me to the point where I'd be so mad and so upset. And I would just let myself do this like downward spiral. And then I'd feel like such a jerk afterwards because I'm like, they can't help it. They're throwing up. Why am I so mad? You know? But now, you know, I take that moment to be empathetic and supportive and see what I can do. And then after I'm done talking with them, if I need to have a moment, then I will have a moment. And it's always just by myself. And I'm like, okay, we're scheduling yoga later and it's going to be fine. Like that's it. We just need to take it off of our mind right now because we're at work and we'll deal with that later.
Yes.
That's where I feel like the work-life balance has so much to do with, like right now, I feel like I have no work-life balance. Like I work at work and I work at home. And I've had like no downtime to do anything fun or like, you know, with my freedom, with time. So I just go to work, then I come home and I get on the computer and do homework, and I really feel it getting to me. And I'm just saying, one more week till you get that done, and then, you know, it'll be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, the work-life balance, and that's great that you schedule the yoga for yourself, you know, because it probably helps you so much to like reset and then go back to work and deal with the next, you know, set of issues that's going to come up. It always will.
Yeah, it's never going to stop. That's something that I used to tell myself too. Like, this is never going to stop. So why do I keep letting it bother me so much, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, with not having time, like I'm sure we all feel the same way that you do. But I also think about like how much more free I'm probably going to feel when we actually have that freedom. Like I'm either not going to know what to do with myself or I'm just going to be the happiest person on the face of the planet. So
I think I'm going to be the happiest. I think everybody's going to be like, who are you? Because just the smallest things I'm going to have so much more appreciation for, you know?
Yeah,
I saw a girl riding a beach cruiser today and I thought, man, I wish I could just ride for like half an hour on a beach cruiser around town and just think, you know, and little things that I cannot do, attending functions and stuff with my family. And so yeah, it'll be great, but it's all worth it. We know that.
True. Well, speaking of, I think we're pretty much at the end of our time tonight. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about?
No, I think we covered it.
Yeah, I think we definitely had to cover 2 questions of A. And then also discuss all of the items in part B. So we should probably quickly cover customer service.
Just quickly, yeah.
The surveys, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So how useful are the customer service surveys to him or himself? Him or herself. Just kidding.
I struggle with those because I feel like they're just a big setup. Like at the car place, you pick up your car and they tell you they're going to be calling you for a survey. If you rate me this, then, it means this for me. And I mean, they're almost like obligated, so I don't feel like they're true readings. And unless it's something I had a great experience in, or like I know I've got to deal with that same car guy every time I go, unless it's something like that, I normally will decline to do those surveys. I don't want to give a bad, and then regret it later. So if my experience wasn't the greatest, I just kind of decline.
Yeah. I feel like from a customer perspective, if you're receiving those surveys and you're doing them, it can feel good to give someone that praise, but then again, you never know if they're going to get it. Like we don't get good comments. We just see the negative. But also for a customer, it could be like cathartic if they had a bad experience to be able to, like let that go, I guess.
Yeah. Right. That's true.
Yeah, and like you, Monica, in the beginning, I used to really be apprehensive about filling them out because they seemed, in my mind, if they were just self-serving, like, yeah, they're doing this because if I send in some reviews, they get points for however many of the surveys comes back to them. And so I wasn't bothered at first, but lately, especially in the case of the course evaluations for the instructors, I've been really diligent about giving that feedback to them. It makes me feel better if I felt that I got something of value from the course. It makes me feel good to say that, okay, I'm going to at least tell someone that this professor is doing the job that they are paid to do very well. And if it is a case where I didn't enjoy the course as well, I'm hoping that I can give some feedback, and I think I give useful feedback. I'm not just going to say, that professor sucked. Yeah. I'm going to actually tell them some specific things that I didn't enjoy as much, or offer some suggestions on things that could be done better. And it does make me feel better to say that, well, I at least am trying to inform the process and make the experience for the next set of students better than my experience was, if the professor chooses to take the feedback in stride. I don't know, but it's not really my business to know one way or the other whether the professor is going to take my feedback. The point is that I think that I am trying to serve my organization, ASU, well by trying to offer a solution to make a course better, or try to really boost the confidence of a professor that doesn't know one way or the other whether his or her message is getting across. So I fill them out now.
Very good point. Yeah, that is very true and a very good point. Yes.
Yeah, I think that especially with the ASU course evaluations, I'm pretty diligent about doing those too. And it's not like the next question is, how often do you complete these when you're in a foul mood or upset versus in a great mood or excited about the service? I can't recall ever being in a bad mood or in like an exceptionally fantastic mood. It's really about giving, that feedback that could potentially help make the class better, or, maybe the professor just goes, well, she was a one-off. Don't worry about that. I don't know. But as far as like regular customer surveys go, if I don't fill them out very often. I'm more so inclined to fill them out when I had exceptional service, like something really good happened, because I see from our standpoint, there's a lot of negatives that come through and we have really strict criteria. But I don't think it's recognized enough, how fantastic people do sometimes. So if someone did it exceptionally well, then I will go out of my way to do one of those surveys. But other than that, yeah.
Yep.
Some of the free entrees are pretty good at the restaurants if you fill out the survey. So if I see something that I really want, And a coupon that'll be very useful to me, I'll go ahead and fill it out.
Why not? Free tacos? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, let's see what's the next question here. Are these fair, let alone objective, especially given that most employees and most professionals who might be the subject of these surveys may be penalized if they don't receive nearly all fives or nearly all ones, depending on how the Likert scale is set up and when these surveys are filled out?
I don't feel that's fair.
It's not fair at all.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a little bit of a thing stuck in my craw about these surveys because we have ours. They ask one question on this one particular piece of it. Did your barista make an effort to get to know you? And the scale is on a 1 to 7. And in order for us to get points, we have to get a 7. In order for us to lose points, we have to get a 1 or through 6. So there's no scale there, really. It's just like you have to get a 7.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
So I feel like that's not exactly fair or objective, because if your barista made an effort to get to know you a little bit, but not like pushing you, like, what's your dog's name? What's your favorite color? Then like, who knows what that means? Did your barista make an effort to get to know you? So I think I've got a little bit of a personal issue with that question at the moment.
And I've done that survey on my Starbucks app, and I even thought, what kind of question is that? Like, I mean, I walked in for like not even 2 minutes to get a cup of coffee. How are they going to get to know me? And they got 10 people in line behind me.
Well, and then it kind of feels forced after you know that, right? Yeah. And your barista's like, hey, how's it going? What are you up to this weekend? And you're like, you just want that 7. Get out of my face.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, Danielle. My immediate manager was formerly an employee, a customer service rep for Ultimate Software, and we now currently use Ultimate Software as our HR and payroll system of record. And so we we ask customer support questions now, and they'll send a survey back. And my manager, having worked for Ultimate, says, well, here's your survey. If you're not going to rate it a 5, don't fill it out at all, because it was the same vote. If you got less than a 5, you got penalized for it. Mm-hmm. They only wanted the 5s come through on the review. And so we know that now. And so, if we get any type of decent service level at all, we rate it a 5. If we're not going to do that, we don't answer the survey at all.
Yeah.
And that makes it just incredibly unfair.
Yeah, that is unfair.
In the same instance, when people are headed into a coffee shop, when we open at 4:30 a.m., some people do not want to talk to you at 4:30 a.m.
No.
And I think I think I've made some people pretty upset by asking them questions, and I'm like, oh, not a good time. I'll go make your coffee. But yeah, so I don't think those are fair. So the next question is, what rule of thumb do you apply when you fill these out? For example, do you attempt to be fair, or do you prefer to be cruel, kind, or anything else? I shared with you guys that I like to be kind and really go out of my way to make sure that people that do an exceptional job are hopefully being recognized for doing an exceptional job. Because I feel like if I was upset enough to fill out a customer survey in a negative manner, I don't know what that person's going through. Maybe their boss just yelled at them. Maybe their dog just died, And so I'm just going to add to that. Chances are their supervisor probably already knows if they're having an issue, and they're having those coaching conversations or whatever to try to help them improve. But I don't think that people get recognized enough for what they do.
That's true. That's a very good point. I always try to be fair. I would never fill one out and be cruel. Or even if I'm unhappy, I just won't fill it out. I won't get on Yelp and start saying all kinds of crazy mean stuff about a business or a place. But I do try to be fair, and if I don't feel the experience was too good, I just leave it alone. Don't mess with it. Don't bother with it.
Yeah, I think you know me. I'm fairly balanced in my analysis of things. If the service didn't meet my expectations, no, I'm not going to say that, no, I'm mad or this really upset me. I'm going to say this is what happened. I ordered this meal and I didn't get these things, or the fries were cold. I typically will list things that happened instead of trying to assess a good or bad quality to them. And I'll let whoever reads the survey take what they will from the information that I provide. So balance is what I try to do.
That's a good way to do it too, because you're taking out any emotionally charged words, that could potentially be translated into something else, I guess.
It's true.
So do you think fairness is the same as being objective as a respondent? In other words, can a respondent on these surveys actually be totally objective? Why or why not?
That's a tough question.
I think fairness and being objective are similar. But fairness, and I'll go back to using LaSalle's example of talking about what happened instead of being mad or something. Like, it could be fair that a person expresses their opinion on one of those surveys. Their feelings are certainly legitimate, but being objective, I would say, would be more to the end of what LaSalle does, where he talks about what happened instead. And I think being 100% at anything is incredibly hard to achieve. I certainly have trouble being as objective as possible. But it really does, if you want to be objective as possible, then it comes down to talking about what happened instead of being emotional about it. And I feel that in most circumstances, when, like we talked about earlier, I like to fill out surveys when someone did extra awesome. And we know that there's those people that fill them out when they're super angry, So I think the objectivity for, I would say, most people, but of course I don't really know, just goes right out the window. They're not thinking about, who that person is or anything else. So I don't think objectivity is possible for most.
That's a good point.
I think that's fair.
Awesome. So that is it for question B. All right. Well, then I will go ahead and send you guys this link, and I'll see you next week. Have a good weekend.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, it is. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.